I want to show you a pretty cool little video on positive reinforcement.
Fine, whatever. Are you finished?
Well, thank you. How thoughtful. Would you like a chocolate?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Oh, sorry, Sheldon. I almost sat in your spot.
Did you? I didn't notice. Have a chocolate.
Thank you. What's this cartoon called again?
Oshikuru Demon Samurai.
And it's not a cartoon, it's anime.
Anime. You know, I knew a girl in high school named Anime. Anna Mae Fletcher. She was born with one nostril. Then she had this bad nose job and basically wound up with 3.
You're here a lot now.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please. Oh, hey, Kim. Yeah, you know what? Hold on. Let me take this in the hall. You'll never guess who they got to replace you at work.
Okay. I know what you're doing.
Really?
Yes. You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate?
No, I don't want
All right, that's a humorous example of positive reinforcement, but it shows you in a comical sense how it actually works. Again, negative reinforcement is taking something away. So you ask your child to pick up the toys, your child proceeds to tantrum, then you quit asking the child to pick up the toys. So when you ask them to pick up the toys next time, what is the child going to do? Tantrum. They know what to do to get out of the request being made. Positive punishment is using punishers like spanking and so forth, spanking your child when they engage in an undesired behavior. So again, we've kind of talked a little bit about these, but remember, this is temporary. The strength over time begins to lose its value. It's kind of like when you work out a lot, you get really, really strong. After a while, you're going to stop working out, and the strength that you've gained goes down. Same idea, same concept. Negative punishment is taking away watching TV for talking back. And then extinction. Remember, an extinction burst is when you dramatically decrease that behavior. The way you do it is you draw the line in the sand and you stay to your original request, not removing it. If you don't stay to that original request, you raise the intensity of your next tantrum. This is the easiest way to show you what I mean. This person is getting ready to go through an extinction burst. However, somebody doesn't follow through. Oops.
Lewis! Mom! Mommy! Mama! What? Hi.
That's a perfect example of if you don't maintain that contingency, it's going to go higher. We had this really, really interesting story of a parent that said they had a child. They came to a seminar, learned what an extinction burst. We got this random email. It says, I've taken my child through an extinction burst and I've learned a lot. So they put a little camera up in the child's bedroom just to videotape what the child was doing when they were going to go through this. So in the living room, bless you, the child asked for ice cream and they said no ice cream tonight. You're going to have to wait till tomorrow. So the child had this huge tantrum in the kitchen, throwing themselves in the living room, just screaming and yelling. So mom and dad decided, on their own free will, we're going to take her to the room and put her in her room, and that's where she's going to need to stay. Once she's calm, then we'll talk to her at that point. So they took her in the room, and mind you, the camera's on. So she's sitting in the room, ah! Mom and dad walk out, and the child goes, ah! Ah! Did exactly that on the video. The child knew exactly what the contingency was. They knew if mom and dad are present, I need to cry and yell and scream. If mom and dad are present, it doesn't matter if I cry, yell, and scream, nothing's going to happen. So whenever they would see mom or dad in the context of their environment, they would tantrum again. Children are super smart. Our kids that have developmental delays are super smart. Don't ever discount them. They are 10 times smarter than you ever know behaviorally. What's interesting is they have us doing more things for them than we have them doing for us. And we don't even know that they have us doing it, and they know that they have us doing it, which is crazy, but it is so true. Here's your 3-term contingency. They call it the ABCs, the antecedents, the behavior, and the consequences. The antecedent is basically what happens immediately preceding the behavior. What's the trigger? So antecedent interventions are knowing what the triggers are that cause the tantrums. What's interesting about knowing the antecedents is that gives you a starting point to teach an alternative behavior when that event is present. Instead of just letting the event happen, teach an alternative to that event and then place them in the situation and test how your intervention is actually working. The behavior itself will tell you, and then the consequences are critical. When that individual punched me in the face, if I crowd down and said, "Ow, that hurts, put it back, put it back, put it back," what would I have done to his aggression? Reinforced it. Absolutely right. I would have reinforced it and also probably increased the intensity of it. Now, I know what you're thinking. We'll take a time out here for a second. You think, I don't want to get hit by anybody. I don't want to get scratched by anybody. Aggression is not only physical, remember that. Aggression is verbal too. Is dominance considered aggression? All right. Funny story. I had a really good friend of ours who went to an Ivy League school. They were very proud of their school. We were very proud of them. So every time us as a group got together, we had dinner. It's like, oh man, I know this really great little Thai restaurant. And the conversation was like, well, when I was in Stanford, there was this Thai restaurant that was right down the street that was really good. Oh, okay, cool. And then, we'd move on. Oh, there was this great little place over here where you could get some really great cocktails. Oh, there was this place in Stanford that was right by the university that had great cocktails too. All right, okay. So, there's this really cool mountain biking trail here. Stanford had the best biking trails ever. So after a while, I thought, okay, I know this guy. I love him. He's been around my life, almost my whole life. So I'm going to do a behavioral experiment with him. The cool part was the rest of the crew was like, yeah, let's do it. What are we doing? We decided to put his Stanford behavior on extinction because his behavior was dominance. He wanted to control the conversations, which is a form of aggression. So what everyone was instructed to do is every time he said, oh, and Stanford, we would immediately shut down and remain quiet at the table. And our duration was for no more than 30 seconds of quiet time. So we started, we're like, hey, there's this really great little place, and oh, at Stanford, and then everyone would just. And at first he was just like, oh, it was really great, let me tell you, blah, 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 blah. And we went on, 30 seconds, everybody's all right, we're doing our thing again. Comes back around, oh yeah, and when I was at Stanford, and that time he was kind of like, so he went halfway through his spiel. He kept doing it. So finally, about the 5th time, he says, all right, I get it. I'll stop talking about Stanford. And then we're like, oh, we're going to buy you all your drinks tonight. Yeah. That was it. We never heard about Stanford again. It's about knowing how the consequences reinforce the behavior. Interestingly enough, today he says, so are y'all buying my drinks today? We're like, no. Well, I'm going to talk about Stanford. So he kind of brings it back, which is funny. Basic elements of interaction. Number 1, be proactive. Modify your environment. Know what you're walking into. Know what you have set up. So if you're working with an individual that has 3 primary high-level reinforcers, and you're going to use those reinforcers to create behavior change, don't set the room up with all 3 reinforcers freely accessible. Make sure that they need to work towards those reinforcers. Remember something, in life, nothing's free, right? So why do we give our kids things that are free without having to work for them? Everybody needs a purpose, regardless of your pathology. Everyone needs a purpose. We have to work towards things. Remember, we are educating our individuals to be as successful as they possibly can as adults. And if we give everything to them free, or we feel bad for them because they have autism, guess what's happening? We are going to be the only people that feel that way because the rest of the world is not a nice place. People are mean. People that don't understand developmental disabilities don't understand. And we want to make them as resilient and independent as we possibly can. Teach prosocial behaviors as an alternative to challenging behaviors. If you know they hit to get food, find alternative ways to teach them to request food without hitting. You're going to have to probably go through a little scratching and hitting, but find alternative ways. Look up the journal articles. Manage consequences of behavior. Everyone is different, and this is where the big challenge comes, because if you work with a family, each family has different cultural, historical values, norms, religious values, so we have to be really sensitive to the family and their needs too. What would you like to do when it comes to consequences? How do you want to reinforce the child for appropriate behavior? However, if he hits, this is what we recommend. What would you like to do? And remember, when it comes to aggression, we put it on extinction. We don't punish it, because aggression is their method of communicating with us, saying, I need something. If we punish that, it's almost like punishing them for having a voice. We can't do that. We have to realize that they're asking for something. The obvious is not always evident. All right, what do you guys see in there? Okay. An older lady, a man playing the guitar. Anybody see the owls? Oh, anyone see the chalice? Anyone see the birds? Did anyone see Pokemon in there? I'm just kidding. I was curious if you would look. You guys are like, yeah. The green stuff? I'm going to call it green stuff. I have no idea. But the fact that you notice it, I'll give you a high five for that. So there you go. Good job. The obvious is not always evident. And what we mean by this is simply behavior in itself is really, really a beautiful thing because we're expressing ourselves physically, we're expressing ourselves verbally. Sometimes we make assumptions by what people say and assume that is truly the function of their behavior when it may not be. Remember, you want to look at the topography, you want to look at the antecedent interventions, you want to look at what happens before the behavior, you want to look at what happens after the behavior, what's preventing the behavior, and what's reinforcing the behavior. As you look at those three-term contingencies, then you begin to realize, oh, I'm beginning to make sense of why this starts happening. So if I simply remove this, then this is going to change the environment. Do you know that when we're working with an individual that might be in a state of rage, for example, somebody that is just really ready to hurt somebody and they're pacing and they're just going back and forth and back and forth, you know how you bring them out of that? You block their walkway. You step into their walk. What have you done when you did that? You've altered their environment. That's simple. When I do that pathologically, they have to restructure what they're thinking because now the environment is not the same. We also call that compulsion. When you break the compulsion, have you ever worked with an autistic child and they're putting all their blocks in an order and you move one? What happens? You better put it back. That's where it goes, and it does not go anywhere else but right there. Same idea, same concept.